he was going to bring back NWO. Like, it was all good and stuff. It was exciting. Like, cool, that's awesome. But they did it wrong. They did it bad. The DX return with Triple H and HBK, it was bittersweet. It was nice to see Shawn Michaels come back because he was one of my favorite wrestlers. But, yeah, there was a good 10 years where I just saw it in glimpses, saw professional wrestling in glimpses. The Hardys' return to WrestleMania was huge for me because I actually had gone back and watched weeks of TNA before I even watched WrestleMania or knew that happened. I was like, I'm going to get back into wrestling again because the Hardys were getting this opportunity to put on their own like pay-per-view where they did it out at their land and stuff. And I thought that fucking pay-per-view is so cool because they had the drones for the cameras. I thought it was interesting to have a really old guy up on a crane. I thought that was quite interesting, but the show went over. It was good. And then, you know, Hardy's come out at WrestleMania because I decided to actually watch WrestleMania that night, and I geeked the fuck out. I'm like, no fucking way. They just had the titles and everything. I was just watching them, and they come back and they get the titles and everything. It was fucking great. Anyway, that's just a brief history on me and professional wrestling and wrestling in general. Now, and the reason I want to do this podcast is literally because AEW, All Elite Wrestling. When I heard there was going to be a new wrestling organization type, I got a hold of my friend that's actually going to be a co-host later on in the season. He's the one that bought the WrestleMania 9 pay-per-view when we were kids. And me and him have been hitting it off. Wrestling, back and forth, talking wrestling, trading videos of wrestling, just being wrestling fanatics. And he's slowly getting me back into it. And he's like, you got to check out these indie wrestlers and all these indie videos. And pretty much getting me back into it. And what did it was All In. All In was great. It wasn't the best. I didn't like the stairs for the entrance. But it was all new to me. All of it. Besides knowing who like Cody was, I didn't know who the Young Bucks were or anything like that. And that's my buddy's like, you got to check out the Young Bucks. And I went and watched Being the Elite, seeing the Nightmare Family videos, all this good stuff that was coming out. And they were like, promoting this Double or Nothing pay-per-view. And I'm like, well, this is going to be really cool to see how they're going to do this. And I've been watching, their promotional videos. I've also been watching, some of these news channels on YouTube for wrestling. Shout out to Wrestle Talk. And I love those British guys. Trailing off a little bit. Double or Nothing. I watched it that night. I was really excited for it. Because I want to be a wrestling fan again. There's something about being a wrestling fan. And I'm hopeful to see how they're about to change the world of wrestling. I mean, yes, a lot of it's going to be the same, but they're putting out stuff I have not seen. Moves that I haven't seen. Sequences I haven't seen. Some of these tag team wrestling sequences are fucking amazing. Double or Nothing literally made me tear up twice. It made me feel like a fucking kid again. The first one was when Smiley Kylie came out, and there was something about seeing her look at the crowd and know that it was all real. And you saw that emotion and you fucking felt that emotion. It was crazy. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, look she's in a fucking sold out house. Do your thing. And I don't know any of these wrestlers. And like the women's wrestling, I wasn't going to expect anything much of it, but they blew me out of the fucking water. Some of these Japanese wrestlers, just swinging around doing these crazy moves just got me all bubbly inside. So, I'm watching, Double or Nothing, and actually the buy-in, and I do apologize if I go back and forth in this tangent of a podcast, but the buy-in, seeing a legless guy flip around, and I know Jim Cornette's just like, there's no room in wrestling for that, and he's also against the transgender wrestler. I loved it. I thought it was innovative. It's new. It's fresh. It's rawer than fucking Raw right now. That's for sure. Raw is stale. I've started watching those, but let's get back to Double or Nothing. I don't want to talk a lot about WWE besides the fact of how they compare in this whole new jump here, and we'll see if AEW succeeds or fails. But Double or Nothing, buy-in, it was kind of slow, and I understand where like Jim Cornette came from, where he's they didn't watch the buy-in and the Battle Royal. I thought the Battle Royal was interesting. It was an opportunity to put these people's face out there for the first time. In a big capacity like that, I didn't necessarily understand the rules of the Battle Royal, like the card situation and how they came out, but it worked. Cody coming out in that fucking entrance, I was like losing my shit. Well, at first, when he came out in the robe, I'm like, oh no, Cody, oh man, now you're going to try to like, I am Triple H type thing. And then I see the throne, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, Cody? And then his wife takes out the sledgehammer. And I'm like, wait a minute. Something else is going to happen here. He walks up there and he smashes that fucking throne. I just fucking lost my shit. And this is a wrestling fan who lives alone, and I'm just freaking out in the open, I don't normally do that for wrestling, but I did. I'm like, that's awesome. That's like their big fuck you to the WWE. The match with Dustin, shit, man, I thought they were going to stop it because there was so much fucking blood. And I mean, I've heard it from a couple other podcasts, but it was like so much blood where it was uncomfortable, but you could tolerate it because you wanted it to keep going. And that's the second time I teared up, was when Cody asked or told Dustin that he needs his brother. And there was just something about seeing a wrestler feel the emotions lets you feel it too. And that's what wrestling did for me when I was younger. It gave me that great feeling of, wonder and excitement for the wrestling programs, and the storylines. And like, yeah, it was just a big melodrama, but like, Jericho's entrance at Double or Nothing, I, again, lost my shit. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Many times, some of the moves that happened in Double or Nothing, I was chanting with the crowd, holy shit, or this is awesome, because it was. Double or Nothing renewed my excitement for pro wrestling, and I'm really, really excited for what they're about to do week to week, coming in the fall. And that's also when I'm going to be having my co-host join us when the weekly thing comes on, because we're going to do some reviews on it. I also want to do a review right after Fyter Fest. I will watch Stomping Ground, but I don't think I'm going to do a review on it. The fact that Stomping Ground hasn't sold seats, their card is shit. It's a bunch of rematches that we've already saw, and they're not necessarily building these matches up week to week in Raw and SmackDown. And I have been watching Raw and SmackDown to get my wrestling fix, because AEW is not there yet to give me that. But the day that Fyter Fest became free, I social media'd it. I was like, dude, they're coming out and they're putting this stuff out for free? Did you see Double or Nothing? Like, I know it's a smaller show, it's a smaller venue, but I think Fyter Fest is going to be pretty fucking cool. The fact that All Out sold out in 15 minutes. That's amazing when Stomping Ground still hasn't sold enough tickets to they're going to be blocking off certain areas of the audience. That's just, I don't know. Vince McMahon is micromanaging the WWE to a point where it's just suffocating itself. And the only really thing that WWE has for itself is the Firefly Funhouse. And at first when I saw Firefly Funhouse, I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? I didn't give it a chance. I was like, this is some kiddie shit. I went on my phone and I didn't, and then I saw some creepy shit going on and I didn't really catch what it was. And then the next week, and then the next week, and the more Firefly Funhouse. That's another problem I have. Firefly Funhouse might be great. It might be the best thing that WWE is doing right now. But the fact that they have it on Raw and SmackDown when they could be providing other wrestlers, their roster's stacked with people sitting in the back not doing shit for TV. And you're putting on the Firefly Funhouse 2 nights in a row when it's just, I don't understand it. I mean, if it was a different episode, I'd understand. Be like, oh, we're getting another new episode of Firefly Funhouse. But no, they play the same fucking one that you can go on YouTube and see anytime you want. Give some other wrestlers a goddamn chance to jump in the ring, do a promotion, something like that. But it's the same repetitive, this wild card thing is literally their way of making Raw and SmackDown the same fucking show. And I don't mean to go on a tangent on WWE, but it's so fucking easy. It's really easy. The John Oliver segment about the WWE not treating their wrestlers like employees and the fact that they're contracted, and even some of the wrestlers are coming out to say, well, I'm not an employee. AEW, their rise, what I'm hopeful for is the fact that they're making their wrestlers employees. They're giving them creative control. These moves seem a lot harder, more fluid. They're doing more to captivate the audience. They want to have big matches. And their characters are fucking dope. Joey Janela, I watched some back stuff on him, and he's a crazy motherfucker, but he's still going. Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, that shit was off the chain. And I really like Kenny Omega. I have been, my co-host that'll be coming later on has been getting me into the indie scene and watching a lot of BTE and stuff. Kenny Omega is amazing. I am really happy he never went to the WWE. Like Shinsuke Nakamura, he could do so much better in another brand of wrestling. I feel like his talents are being wasted in the WWE because you see Kevin Owens, old promos and stuff. I mean, like, yeah, he's still got it in the WWE, but he's not. If he was able to create his own, I guess, way or route or his own storyline with somebody, it would be so much better than whatever WWE is putting in front of his face. The wrestlers in WWE's promos are stale. Doesn't feel like they're into it at all. The 24/7 title is the ugliest piece of shit I've ever seen. Yeah, R-Truth was bringing some good comedy to it. He just lost the belt for some fucking reason. But that whole segment is to throw the viewer off. They're trying to be fresh when they're and come up with new ideas, but it's not going to work if they just sit there and let Vince do it. NXT, I don't even want to dive into that, but NXT is doing so much better than Raw or SmackDown. These characters are getting the opportunity to be creative, do their own stuff without a Vince McMahon type of person breathing down their neck. And I know I don't like Triple H, but I have a feeling he's got a different perspective on new wrestlers. And we all know that Vince McMahon just likes to have toys and only bring them out when he wants to play with them, and like Brock Lesnar. Holy fucking shit, Brock Lesnar, just go do something else. you suck at wrestling. You suck at promos. You suck at all of it. Whatever. You're a great, big, powerful guy.